What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Progressive Vibe. I'm your host, Dottie here. Today is February 28th, 2021. This is Season 3, Episode 7. And today's title is Stagnant Tip Wages in the South. We are going to have on a guest today to talk about the title of the episode, literally. I did tell you guys that we're going to have a guest on today, so I wanted to keep my promise on that, and again, I wanted to keep you guys invested. Today's plugins, before we get started on today's episode, is voice messages on Anchor app. So no matter where you listen, and even if you don't have the Anchor app, you can send me audio messages, just letting me know how I'm performing. Would be helpful, or just having general questions or thoughts concerning the news at hand. I will include your messages in the podcast episode, and also I will have the voice message link attached in this episode. Also, one last plugin. This is by the African Wildlife Foundation, and it is Conservation and Public Health are linked. That is the title of the email that I had, and I wanted to share with you guys because I thought it was very, very enlightening. It says, if COVID-19 has taught us anything, it's that survival of wildlife and the survival of humans are not separate goals. Zoonotic diseases and zoonosis are diseases transmitted from animals to humans, and 72% of those originate from the wildlife rather than domesticated animals. Scientists say that every year, zoonosis, like the coronavirus that causes COVID-19, account for more than 60% of known infectious diseases reported globally, causing approximately 2.5 billion cases of illnesses and 2.7 million deaths. So if you guys want to donate to that foundation, there's that. I will also link that in the description in the episode. So yeah, guys, if you want to know more about that, I will link all of the things that we discussed in the episode below. So on that note, we're going to get into today's episode. Hey guys, we're back here on The Progressive Vibe with your host Dottie here. So again, today's episode is stagnant tip wages in the South. And before we bring in our guest, I kind of wanted to fill in the blanks, if you will, on some of my takes on how waitresses and bartenders and waiters should be paid a minimum wage and not have to rely on tipped wages. First things first. Just to shed some context on what I'm saying right now, this is not an opinion. This is a fact. And it says Center for Economic Policy and researches show that if the minimum wage did keep up with the increase of inflation, that the current minimum wage in 2021 would be $24. So I just wanted to put some context into what I'm saying, because last week, if you guys don't know who Senator John Thune is, he's a senator from South Dakota, And he's told some kind of story that, in 1979, I was making $6 an hour, and I had to work what I got. And I guess he worked in some kind of local family owned restaurant, which he already kind of had um he kind of already had a green light, if you will, because I mean his family owned the restaurant that he was working in. So um obviously you're going to be making money in 1979 regardless of um the amount of money that you're saying that you made back then. um $6 in 1979, which he said that he was making back then, uh would be $23.11 in 2021 today, if you do the math. So it aligns with the Center of Economic Policy and Research's $24. So I don't know. I just don't like it's so many politicians come on and mainly Republicans that say, well, we shouldn't increase the minimum wage because of what about small businesses? What about local businesses? They won't be able to stay afloat. Yes, they will. Yes, they will if the government comes in and provides that funding for the local business, for the small businesses. Obviously, the big business, Walmart, Amazon, etc., does not need much help because they are a corporate business. So if you're working at a local business or small business, especially in the South, you should be inclined to receive more funding by the federal government. Just that plain and simple. So senators like John Thune, who don't want to increase the minimum wage because he thinks that it's going to drown small businesses and local businesses, he's wrong. And I mean, for him to equate, I don't even think he even realized that he was making the case to the American people the whole time. He was saying that, well, I had to work as a server, and then I was only making $2 then, and I worked my way up in the business, and I became a cooker, a cook, and he started making $6 an hour. Okay, well, again, $6 an hour in 2021 would be $23.11. So um obviously something wrong if the minimum wage for average workers is $7.25 is what I'm saying. If it would have kept up with inflation, then people wouldn't be complaining about minimum wage. It's just that simple. So I just don't want that to be people's standpoint of your value. You go to work every day. uh you spend majority of your time of your life at work, and you should be getting the correct compensation for it. And I think that waitresses and bartenders and servers are very, very undervalued for the service that they provide to their constituency. And I think that it is going unrecognized. And I think that it's time to shed more light on this because I don't know about you guys, but I've been to several restaurants. I'm a Alabamian. I live in the South. And so, it's a bunch of Southern hospitality down here, but, you have a bunch of clientele that goes in the restaurants that thinks that they own their waitresses or their bartenders or their servers. And for them to act like that and not provide any kind of tips, really, I mean, it just says a lot. And it's been like that. It's not that like, it's not like you have a salary to depend on. I mean, your salary is dependent on what people tip you. So, studies show that women that are bartenders and servers and waitresses are very undervalued in the job that they perform. And it shows also that men are the majority of the tippers. So if you're going out to go eat, the guy's going to be likely to tip the server, and the server or the bartender uh, is probably going to be a female. And so there is a disparity in that, and it goes unrecognized. And um, look, guys, the federal minimum wage, not talking about the tip wage, the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. That's 12 years. And you have waitresses and you have bartenders and you have waiters, servers, that are not even making that. They're only making $2.15, and they have to depend on their tip wages. So yes, places like New York and Washington that I have seen, that I have read, that show that they're, if you're a server slash bartender there, you're making approximately, $13.50, possibly 14. I think New York is $18. But it should be like that abroad, and I understand that New York is bigger than Alabama, but at the same time, it depends on where you work at in Alabama, because in the South, and I'm saying this because like I'm a Southerner, we like to eat. We like to go out and we like to eat food. And so if that's a staple point of the business that you receive in your state, then you should compensate the people who work at these places. It shows statistically that the restaurant industry really, really has a big impact revenue wise on the state like Alabama, for example, because Alabamians like to eat food. The guests that I'm having on, again, they're a bartender and they work in a very, very popular location, and they will get into that when they speak, to shed more light on that. But that's my take on it, guys. And again, I feel like that the restaurant industry makes tons of money, but when it comes to their employees, they're very, very undercompensated. So there's my take for it, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do the event forum. Just going to read some social media takes. And after that, we're going to have our guest on. So stay tuned. What's up, guys? We're back here on the Progressive Vibe. This is the event forum of the podcast. So welcome. First post says, any media platform that runs Trump's speech tonight should be forced to do a split screen showing of the events of January 6th while he is talking. I think that's actually a great point. But obviously it won't be done because, I mean, it's the conservative conference or convention, wherever they call it. CPAC, to shed some context on this tweet, CPAC is having a conservative convention tonight, and Donald Trump is supposed to be the main headline, if you will, to let everybody know, let all the other conservatives and Republicans there know that he's going to be taking that top spot come 2024. Now, is he going to run in 2024? That's left up to see, but I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on it because, it's a lot of work to, run for president and all that. And I think that Trump has some legal battles that's coming his way that he's going to have to fight in court. So he might be too busy with that to run in 2024. Maybe that's what Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party as a whole are hoping, that he has so much court battles that that takes up his time, that he won't be able to run for president, because 56 to 58% of the Republican base still wants Trump to be the front runner. So, when you have those numbers, when you have the majority of the Republican base saying that they want Trump to be the nominee, then it's kind of hard to go out on cameras and say that, hey, Trump wasn't a good, Republican in our party, or, I really don't think it's good Republicans in Congress in general, but you know what I mean here. But good tweet there. The next tweet goes on to say, this is by Nina Turner, and it says, read this twice. Student loan debt cancellation is a racial justice issue. So true. She was commenting on Pramelia Job Hall's post that read 6% of white student loan borrowers are behind on payments compared to 20% of black borrowers and 23% of Latino borrowers. Black borrowers on average owe nearly twice as much in debt than white borrowers. We can't close the racial wealth gap without canceling all student loan debt. So I think she's spot on. To me, what that says is white, black, Latino, whatever, are all suffering some sort of student loan debt, and it is apparent that we cancel all of it, not 10,000, which I heard was a recommendation. I think it should be all of it, at least 50,000. But we will see. Only time will tell. But I thought that was a great tweet by Nina Turner, who is running for representative in her state in Ohio. I can't remember the district, but she is running for Ohio representative within that state. So that does it for the Vent Forum. Hope you like what you heard. After we come back, we will have our guest. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? We're back here on The Progressive Vibe with your host, Dottie here. The last segment, we had the Vent Forum, and the segment before that, we talked about how stagnant tip wages was mainly in the South. So before I keep blabbering, I wanted to go ahead and introduce today's guest that we have on. Her name's Stacey Edmondson. She is a bartender in the restaurant industry, and she's going to shed more knowledge and insight on some of the personal experiences that she encounters on a daily basis, why she feels that a federal minimum wage would be sufficient for servers and waitresses and bartenders such as herself. So lastly but not least, how you doing, Stacey?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you. So, you have expertise in the restaurant industry, and you are a bartender, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. So, bartend full-time, and then I'm a server part-time at the same restaurant.
Okay.
Well, actually, first off, thank you for having me on today.
No problem.
I really do appreciate it. I'm kind of excited to be here.
Thanks for being my first guest.
Absolutely. This is also my first podcast too, so I'm get my feet a little wet.
Right, exactly. I mean, honestly, like I'm still trying to adjust to it myself. Shout out to you for being a listener of the podcast. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a bumpy transition to say the least.
Yeah, well, I think it's going pretty smooth.
I think so.
I think it's all good. And I'm really excited about your topic today. I just feel like it's something that's not talked about enough. So yeah, I bartend full time, and then I'm a server part time, and that means so for my serving wage, I get paid $2.13 an hour.
Okay.
Bartending, I get paid a little over minimum wage, about $9. So, but what happens then is I am obviously being based off tips. So anything that I make off tips is automatically going to be taxed out of my hourly wage, which pretty much just, cancels that out.
Right.
Checks are very little to nothing at all. And I know not many countries are actually, they're not stigmatized to the whole tipping thing. I think this is more of an American thing that we have going on.
I agree.
So when it comes to tips, obviously no one is, tipping's not required. You go to restaurants, you can sit down, have your meal, pay for your food, and you can leave. But it is stigmatized where you are supposed to tip your server because that's how they survive. But I think it comes down to an entitlement thing. So when people sit down at a table and, they're asking for, oh, let me get a Michelob Ultra with a lime, they want you to go run, do that fast in a hurry, all at the same time you are taking care of, 3, 4, 5 other families.
Right.
And I mean, it's not just like a super easy thing to just, oh yeah, I'm not going to say I have the hardest job in the world, but I am going to say that it takes, a lot of mental tactics to, makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
To provide a service for multiple families at one time.
Right.
So again, people have this entitlement that while you were serving them, you are, they're made, you're their server, they own you at the time, kind of like you mentioned. And I'm not going to say that everybody has that same standpoint, but for the most part, especially down the South, and that's kind of how we're based off, today's episode is how it is in the South. And I live in a tourist town. So, and I kind of find myself lucky living in a tourist town because we do get more business than like a little small town, 200, 300, 500 people population.
Right.
Would be. So I am reluctant to have, a bigger, larger income base when it comes to like the restaurant that I'm at, but I can't imagine how it would be at an even smaller place. You come in and people sit down to eat and maybe you'll have like 5 or 6 tables all day. That's not going to pay the bills.
Right.
And then when it comes to serving people's food, well, actually, I'm in this group on Facebook, and it has well over 150,000 different service industry folks in it. And I thought it was funny because right before we started this podcast, this person posted in that group, and I'm just going to read it to you just to give you like an insight. Okay, it says, customer, can I have all white meat? Me, yes, sir, that will be a $2 upcharge, though. Is that okay? Customer, yeah, it'll just come out of your tip, though.
Wow.
And I just feel like that post alone gives a lot of insight on what servers have to go through on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But at the same time, can we really, well, I also want to say social media has done a really good job of putting in, or shedding some light on tipping and how, I will say, like, my parents are better tippers now that I'm in the service industry than they were when I was growing up.
Right.
Social media has shed a lot of light on who's being paid fair wages and who's not, and this, that, and the other. So,
well, and then that's a really, really good point. Because social media it's a double-edged sword because one hand it sheds light on things like that, and on the other hand it continues this misinformation. And I'm not saying that your parents, and specifically, I'm just saying as abroad in general that it's a two-edged sword because social media can be helpful, but then it can spread misinformation. And it's a perfect example that you made with your parents because you're saying that back in the day, maybe it's not so much good tips, but now that it's been shed light on the situation, you saying that your parents are better tippers now. And so, I mean, to me, it does help that social media plays a part in today's society, especially. Um, but I feel like on a bigger note here that I don't think that our government really appreciates us, and I'm just talking about not even not even in the restaurant industry, just as abroad. I mean, um, we're trying to get a $15 minimum wage implemented, and it's not going as planned right now. Hopefully, down the road it's going to be implemented. But to go back to the restaurant industry, you have to deal with so many different people and so many different types of personalities and just I mean black, white, Latino, different religions. I mean, it does not matter. And to me, you're being undervalued. And so I can understand when people say, well, well, tips are good. I make this, I make that, but like, where are you living is the thing. And down here in the South, you work at a local business and, it's on the beach.
Right.
And, you encounter a lot of clientele, especially during the spring and summertime. And so you're pretty much putting your, I don't want to say life on the line, but you're pretty much
Well, we
putting
are in a pandemic.
Exactly.
Serving food.
Exactly.
Picking up dirty plates.
Right.
So,
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so that in a way that you are, you know what I mean? And so it should not, you should not have to worry about if you're going to come in contact with an asshole customer or not. And
I shouldn't have to rely on the people that decided to go out to eat tonight if I'm going to be able to eat tomorrow.
Agree. Exactly.
And I work for a great company and I work for great people. However, they're a small business. They're not put in the position, financially like they should be to be able to pay their employees more. Like you said, federally, that should be a thing. And I feel like anybody that provides a service for you should be tipped, but also they should be paid before that tip just in case they don't get a tip.
Right.
A lot goes into preparing, a lot goes into a restaurant. It takes all hands in the restaurant, except for the servers and the bartenders, which are the ones that are up close and front personal doing all the, I'm not going to say all the hard work because that's not fair because there's a lot of hard workers in the restaurant. Everyone, again, it's a team effort, but they're the ones out there standing at the table, smiling at the people that aren't smiling back at them and serving all the food. And some people don't walk into the restaurant ready to tip.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when the government and the state should step in and make sure that this so valued experience, because like you said, we're in the South and people love to eat.
Right. Yeah.
I love to eat. I wish we weren't in a pandemic because I freaking love sitting on a patio, and eating lunch and just like probably being a little hot, but like it feels great out there. So like,
Right. Exactly.
So
yeah.
I don't feel like we should have to rely on people to pay our bills. We should be paid for showing up and doing our jobs. Plus, depending on how great of service you get, that's what you should be tipped up based off of.
Agreed. I mean, like, I 100% agree with everything you just said. I mean, it's just, lack of leadership goes a long way, and I feel like we have a lot of that in the state. the state, and again, like you said, the state should, provide the necessities that the people need within, again, in the restaurant industry. I mean, if your state's benefiting, on the production of the restaurant industry, meaning people buying food, then which is flourishing.
Always.
Exactly. Pre-pandemic and, going on now. I mean, people still eating, people still going out. And I'm not saying that people should be going out and eating in restaurants. I'm gonna just keep it real. During the pandemic, but again, this is when the federal government should step in and provide the necessary funds for local and small businesses. And the leadership here in the state always says that they always get behind small businesses and local business. Like, they use it literally as their talking points and everything. But when it comes to driving home that policy, then it does not happen. And, it can happen. Like, you can pay your employees a tipped wage and an hourly wage. You just can. And
this isn't exactly the same, but I'm thinking of in the same mindset of like car salesman, salary and commission.
Yeah.
For doing that job.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, yeah. That'd be like, seriously though. Like, I mean, it's the same thing. When you really, when it comes down to it, it's just the same type of thing. And again, I just don't feel like, people who are doing these jobs are just basing their livelihood off of tips, people doing the right thing, because it can be anything. You can not look the par and get a bad tip. You can say something politically, and when you're working and stuff like that, obviously you don't, they say not to bring up politics and stuff like that, but when you're conversating in a restaurant, for example, and talking to different people, we in the South, it's going to be a lot of conservative minds. And Stacey, I'm not calling out your political ideology here, but I mean, what if you have a different take on something? If somebody asks you a question, you have a different take, and that customer decides to leave you $7 tip on a $50 meal, $60 meal, because you said that, well, personally, sir, I think, or personally, ma'am, I think that Biden's a little bit more competent than Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I mean, like,
well, it's funny that you even say that though, because that's actually happened to me before. But like you said, like, politics can randomly get brought up, especially in the South, mainly because everything gets turned political. You can't have like a normal day-to-day conversation without, especially in today's time, something becoming political. And one time I really did. This was before the election. This was pre-pandemic, so that's how far back this goes. But Trump was in office. I guess this was like his third year. Same restaurant that I'm working at now. And I had older couple came in. They were super nice. Everything was great. They were going to leave. They handed me their money for their check, and they said, keep the change. Thank you so much. And as I'm looking at the money in my hand, I'm like, great, cool. They gave me $20. It turns out that $20 that wasn't part of it was in the middle of the stack of money. It was a Trump 2020 dollar bill, and they didn't leave me any money except for like 24 cents. Their check was probably like $59.87 or something, and then they handed me what looked like $80, which was actually $60, and then a Trump 2020 dollar bill. So it looked like a 20 in my stack, and I was like, y'all have a great night. And they leave, and I'm like, but it sucks because when people do stuff like that, well, again, we should be compensated by our employers and by the government. But when it comes to stuff like that, I just paid for you to sit there because I'm having a tip out of Busser, If I'm serving that night, I'm having to tip out the bartender for alcohol. I just paid for you to sit there. I made negative money off your table because you decided not to tip, but you're not entitled to, but it did become political. And then at the same time, I'm not being compensated at all.
Yeah. That's that. I mean, like that right there should just explain just how, to me, that should just explain to how tip wages just does not work in some areas. It just, like, you can't be dependent on people to, again, do the right thing. And like, you thinking somebody left you a $20 bill and they left you literally left you a Trump 2020 bill. Like it looked like it was a $20 bill, but I mean it was a fake $20 bill. And I mean, like, that's just like a slap in the face to you. And, you have to share tips. I don't think people realize that, like, when you're a waitress and a bartender and a server, you have to share the money that you earned. I don't
pay other people for helping us out during that table.
So you're breaking that tipped wage into 3 parts, and it's just not substantial. It's just not going to pay your bills. It's not going to do anything. I mean, you got left 24 cents out of all that, and you bust your ass, and you were nice, and you were pleasant, and you provided service, and that's what you get. And again, I understand that small businesses, can't flourish out the revenue to their employees like they want. That's why it's incumbent upon the government to step in and state, again, to step in and flourish these local and small businesses. And again, I mean, it starts with state representation. And I guarantee you, Kay Ivey's not sitting up there, pushing for a federal minimum wage to be incorporated in the restaurant industry. Even though I guarantee you, Meemaw Ivey going to restaurants daily, and again, Meemaw Ivey might tip good, but that doesn't. She might, like, depending on if it's her favorite restaurant, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's just you just shedded light on so much stuff, and personal experiences. And I mean,
can I break down that 24 cents that we just talked about at that table?
Of course.
Okay, so because while you were talking, I thought about doing the math, and if their check or their bill was $60, they told me to keep the change, and if it was 24 cents, and it was about that. Again, it was a little while ago, so I don't exactly remember the things. But if they just left me their 24 cents and their bill was $60, I have to tip out a busser to bus that table 1.5% of that 60. Okay, so 60% or 1.5% of $60 is almost a full dollar. Okay, so if they left me 24 cents, I'm officially 66 cents in the hole just from that one table.
Wow.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you really break it down, I just paid for you to sit there, and if that happened at every single table,
I
should have been paid at least, they probably sat there for an hour. I should have made that hourly wage to cover the negative 66 cents plus my time spending at their table.
Exactly. And I mean, this is hot weather and all, right? When you got that Trump 2020 bill, was this during the cold season, or was this still hot outside?
It was probably warm.
Okay.
It was probably warm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably hot outside.
So, I mean, like, when the restaurant industry and stuff like that, obviously you're going to have more people come out and buy food and, spend more money and stuff like that when it's hot outside, especially when you're near a beach. But, I mean, you got to also think about, they call it snowbird season, when it gets cold outside and lack of productivity happens, within the restaurant industry. Depends on what area you're in. Again, I mean, if it's always cold outside wherever you're living in and it's cold outside, then it's not going to probably factor in. But I mean, if you're in Alabama and you are working on a beach and it's cold and windy and rainy outside, then you're probably not going to get more clientele during that season, say in the fall, winter, things like that. So you're not going to probably be tipped. You're probably not even going to be even tipped necessarily the amount of money that you would have been tipped during spring and summertime is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up snowbird season because I know that's probably not everybody knows what a snowbird season is. So basically what happens is during our off season, which is obviously in the winter, everybody's in school, the families, the kids, or everybody are at home preparing for school, taking their Christmas break, fall break, all that good stuff. So what happens is everybody from the north, it's snowing up there.
Yeah.
It's snowing. They don't want to be there.
Yeah.
They come down south. Mm-hmm. And typically it's older folks that are retired, God love them, and they come in and they want what we call snowbird specials. They want cheaper food. They want great happy hours. They want to spend as less money as possible because they're staying here for months at a time while all the kids and the families and the rambunctious groups during the summer and the fall are not here.
Right.
To escape their cold. So they're snowbirds here, and they're so much cheaper than your average family would be on vacation in the middle of summer. So it's funny that you brought up snowbird season because I don't know if this couple in general was a snowbird couple, but I'm thinking it was during the hotter season. But this is the season for older folks, which is fine, but they are a lot cheaper, and they aren't accustomed to tipping
right
like we were growing up. We learned because we're younger to tip, but it wasn't like that back in the day. They don't really
tip. Yeah.
God love them.
Yeah, but they just don't. Yeah.
It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a super great point. Old people are going to be more inclined to come out and eat traditionally. That's just like the old folks method is to go out and eat. Especially after church on Sunday, to come out and have some good food. And, statistics shows that, older couples or older people are more inclined to tip less than tip more. So,
which is where our government should step in.
Agreed.
And,
and provide the necessary support to the state, and that's where the state should provide the necessary support to the local businesses and small businesses that they always go on television and use as a prop.
But I hate that they do that.
Right? It's terrible. It's so terrible.
So true.
So honestly, to end out on this note, U.S. servers, tips are really, really essential to them. Food servers, make a medium annual base salary of about $26,000 a year, and bartenders make an average of $20,000 per year. These salaries float very close to the federal poverty line, and I hope that Stacy's breakdown of her experiences shedded light on that. Stacy, thank you so much for coming on today. How can people check you out? Social media.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be on here. This was a lot of fun. I hope to come back. Maybe we could talk about, other underappreciated folks in different industries next time too, because obviously it's something very important. But you can reach me on Twitter at RightOKYea. So that's right, the letters O, the letter K, YEA. Right, okay, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Follow me there. And yeah, thanks again, Dottie. I really appreciate me being on here.
No problem. All right, guys. I hope you liked the interview. After we get back, we will close out today's episode. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? We're back here on the Progressive Vibe, and that does it for today's show. I hope you like what you heard. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Hopefully, more is to come. Again, got to keep you guys invested. There is still a pandemic going on, so again, I hope everyone's staying safe out there, as well as your friends and your family. Continue to wear your mask, guys. Social distance is showing that numbers are declining in cases and in deaths. Unfortunately, we did hit the 500,000 death mark. Unfortunately, so sad. But continue to play your part in knocking this thing out. If you guys didn't know, they have new variants coming out of California that looks like it's going to be a little bit more aggressive and deadly. So I don't know what's to come. All I know is just because it's getting hot outside, just because springtime is coming, doesn't mean that things are going to be like opening back up. Or things are back to quote unquote normal. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to relay that message. You guys can reach me on social media at Dottie_Vibe. That's DODI_VIBE on Twitter. Also, if you guys have any questions or want to reach out to me personally, you can DM me on Twitter, or you can email me, first and last name, DodrickKing at gmail.com. That's DODRICKKING at gmail.com. Until next Sunday, guys, 4 p.m., I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and stay progressive. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.